Fantastic.
Hi everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. If you don't know me, my name is Anca. I'm here representing SocialBee, and today with me we have Sven. Hi Sven, how are you doing?
Hi, Anca. Hi, everyone. Doing really well. Thank you.
Today we're going to talk about sweepstakes and how partnerships can help you with brand awareness. But before we do that, and while everyone is joining in, I have a few curiosities and a few rules as well. So let me start with the curiosities to give you some time to reply in the chat. Let us know where you're joining in from. What time is it where you are? I know I'm joining in from Europe, so it's evening. It's 7 p.m. here. Sven, I know you're joining in from a very late time.
It's Singapore and it's 1 a.m.
Ooh, so
Bright and
what time
early.
is it where everyone else is joining from? Where are you guys located? Hoping it's a better time for you guys. And in the meantime, a few rules here that we typically do in the beginning of the webinars is that yes, this webinar is recorded. So if you've joined this webinar, you will get a recording of everything that we discuss here in this hour via email in the following days. B, together with us in the chat, you'll find my colleague, Andrea, who will be there to help you with any issues you may be having or direct you towards the correct answer. You'll also be able to ask any questions that you might have during our presentation. Make sure you add them into the Q&A section here at the bottom. That's what we will be looking at the end of the session for any questions. And because I mentioned that I have a curiosity, I'm also launching a poll and seeing if you have used sweepstakes or giveaways before or not. I think we're very curious on that. Okay, I see people are already joining in and saying that the vast majority is saying that no. What do you think about that, Sven?
Well, I mean, it's a great opportunity for the future. I think that's always, if you haven't done something like this before and you actually try it out, I mean, we'll go through a few things later on during the webinar, but when people actually go out there and do it themselves, we were just talking about this earlier, and see what happens, particularly when you do it with a partner where you're already sort of sharing the effort and sharing the workload and the resources and creating something. The results are usually a lot better than most people expect them to be. And I think that's exciting.
Yes, I think so too. So this will be an interesting event. Hopefully those 74% of you that haven't yet done a sweepstakes or giveaway will have something to learn from today's event. I won't hold you any longer. I'll end the poll here and let's share the results for everyone on the screen here for a second so that you can see it. And then I will start with the presentation. I can already see questions rolling in. Oh, actually, hold on. They say that the chat is disabled. So these are not questions. Okay, let me look at that for a second. Where is the chat here? This is actually the first time I'm holding a webinar on Zoom. We just moved from a different platform to Zoom. So let's see where that would be. And why is it disabled? Oh, okay, let's see. There we go. Chat enabled. So let me resolve these very quickly. I was wondering why we have so many questions right off the bat. So let's see. First of all, yes, this webinar is recorded. You will get the recording afterwards. I've answered the ones that are saying that the chat is disabled. Joining from Burnaby, it's 9 a.m. In Romania, it's 7 p.m. here. We have New York also. We have Pittsburgh, noon. So there's a lot of time zones. We have Texas here, 11 a.m., Montreal, a lot of people, Florida, actually. Cool. I'm excited. Great. Okay, so for any other such chats, please use the chat moving forward, and let's leave the Q&A for the questions. So without further ado, we've taken enough time for this. Let me share my screen with you guys and get things started here. So as I said in the beginning, today we're talking about partnering for success, and we've partnered with Intribe to give you more details on how you can raise awareness with sweepstakes here. So let me introduce myself. Hi, I'm Anca. I'm a customer success specialist for SocialBee, and I've been helping users with leveraging the tool and leveraging their social media strategy and doing the most for about 5 years now with SocialBee and 10 years independently. And if you don't know SocialBee, let me show you the easiest and fastest way to schedule, create, and analyze your social media content. So if you haven't heard about SocialBee yet, we're a tool that can help you create your content, schedule it to multiple platforms, analyze it, make the most out of your strategy, and make everything super easy so that you have time to organize sweepstakes with partners, for instance. Together with me, we have Sven, and I'm going to let you introduce yourself, Sven.
Hi, everyone. I am the founder of Intribe. We're a pre-seed MarTech SaaS company focused on partnership marketing. One of the things that happened to me along with earlier in my career is that I actually accidentally fell into a startup where I was running global sales that had an amazing partnerships, a brand partnerships leader. And working with him to drive our growth, I had the opportunity to partner very early on with Red Bull when they were a lot younger, brands like Ducati and Burton and Monster Energy. And, you know, all of this, you know, really left something with me. And as I moved through a number of different startups to help them drive growth, I always started bringing partnerships back into it. And, you know, a few years later, solving my own problem, I went looking for a platform. Because partnerships were hard work. We were a bootstrapped partner at the time, or a bootstrapped startup at the time, I should say. And we were looking for new opportunities for growth. I was out there building a global sales team at the same time, hunting for brand partnerships, and figured, you know, by now there must be a platform for this. And if you go on to the next slide, that's really where it all came from. This idea that, you know, there should be a platform where it's made up of brands that are just looking to partner. And so that's what we've built. And, you know, right now we're facing some really interesting tailwinds. It's a world of rising customer acquisition costs. And really what Intribe does is it simplifies one of the highest ROI marketing tactics that are available to most brands. So on the platform, you build a brand profile really designed around partnerships. So where LinkedIn may be designed around recruitment and individuals, Intribe is actually designed around brands and all of the characteristics that are there. So you can search for the brands by different types of partnership interests, whether it's content partnerships or link building partnerships or event partnerships like this. And then, you know, all of the other features then tie into that and actually help you build a different range of partnership campaigns that, again, easily found by other brands that you can work with.
Okay, well, today we're going to learn more about how you can partner with other brands to create brand awareness and hopefully get some tips for your social media and how you can organize your sweepstakes on social media, together with some awesome real life examples of sweepstakes that actually work. But before we get into all that, I also wanted to prompt a little surprise that you're going to see at the end of this webinar. We do have something planned for you, so make sure you stick till the end or come back to it in the recording afterwards. It's up to you. Awesome. So let's get this started. The first thing that I wanted to do is answer the question, what is a sweepstake? You'll see the definition popping up on the screen, but pretty much the definition of a sweepstakes is made up of three things. The prize, there has to be a prize in order to have it be a contest, a giveaway. There's a winner, and the winner is typically randomly chosen, so it's not a contest where there's a jury and things like that. It's random. And then the most important part of a sweepstake is the fact that entry requires little to no effort. You want your audience to you want to make it as easy as possible for your audience to enter your giveaway. Now, when it comes to partnerships and how do you do sweepstakes and social media, and how do you mix all of these together? Well, you can do so in a variety of ways in order to increase your reach by partnering with other organizations or individuals to make sure that you cross-pollinate audiences, representing the bees here. So I'm going to use puns here and there. So you get to cross-pollinate your audiences and make sure, you know, people who are following intribe are going to now learn about SocialBee. People who are already using and following SocialBee are going to learn about intribe, and this helps expand the brand and increase the reach. You'll also see increased credibility because you'll become more authentic, you'll become more trustworthy by partnering with other brands that have maybe a higher authority than you, or they are more established than you are. You'll also be able to make use of shared resources in a way where, you know, it's a common effort. So you don't have to spend all that time creating all that content or all of that effort on your own. You now have a partner to work with. You'll also be able to see increased engagement as well as new audiences coming in from these sweepstakes. So how do you organize a social media sweepstake? Well, there's a few steps that we're going to go through here. First step, and obviously the stepping stone, the foundation to creating a sweepstakes, is to actually find a partner to make the sweepstakes with. So you're going to look at a few things here. You're going to team up with someone who has the same ideal of the audience. So align your audiences with your partners. Make sure that you have a similar target audience. You don't want to, I don't know, me as SocialBee, I don't want to partnership with a water bottle selling company because it wouldn't make any sense. These two audiences don't have a lot in common. So make sure your audiences align, and then look at your products or services and make sure those align as well. Even better, make sure they're complementary. If you're giving away tickets to a movie, you being the movie producing company, partner with a cinema, for instance. Make sure they're complementary, that the products or services work better together. You can also look at your goals and how they aligned to make sure that you get value, both you and your partner, out of this partnership. Now, once you have that, it's time to look at the first step, which is defining the sweepstakes and the project in particular. So you have all of these stepping stones here, these hives, and you see all of them, so you can look at the duration, the price, the budget considerations, which is not something that we're going to go into too deeply in this webinar, but you should know that this would be the step where you would have to establish a budget, both you and your partner, to kind of have the idea of where you want that sweepstakes to go and what you can achieve within the budget that you have set for this partnership. Sorry if I'm losing my voice. I've been talking all day, so I will drink some water in the meantime. Okay, so we now have everything we need in order to get going with the sweepstakes. So we're going to talk about each individual step that we need to have set. So first of all, the prize, it needs to be something that appeals to both audiences, and it's something that it fits the budget. So make sure it's something that people are interested in, make sure that it's something that works within your brand, and make sure it's something that doesn't drive your brand over budget. Also, think about how many people can win the prize. It's one thing to give away t-shirts, it's another thing to give away cars, for instance. So make sure that the budget takes into consideration how many people can win that prize as well. Next up, look at entry requirements. As I said in the beginning, you first need to make sure that this is as easy as possible to register and to join. So think about an easy way to get something from your audience, whether it's them following your Instagram, whether it's them answering a question that's very easy to find on your website or quite within that same post. Think of what's an easy way to entice them to join. You can then look at the visuals, the title of your giveaway, and think about something specific, descriptive, something attention grabbing to make sure that your newer audiences will be enticed into joining that sweepstakes. And also look at how you can visually represent the prize, especially relevant if your prize is more of a service rather than a product, because with products, it's a lot easier. You're going to have the image of that product. But if you are offering services, then it gets a little bit difficult to do. You can then start thinking about the channels you're going to use when sharing and posting your sweepstakes. So do you want to focus on a single platform? Could be the case if your goal would be to grow your Instagram, for instance. Or do you want to go multi-channel if you want to cross the audiences over more than one channel? You can look at the duration of your post, and then you can, not your post, your contest, and you can see what's the ideal length for the sweepstakes. Generally, I think the bigger the prize, the more people are going to want to join. And so that's when you want to consider whether you're doing this as a super fast giveaway that's maybe 24 hours, or if you want to give more than a week worth of time for your audience to join the sweepstakes. This also depends on the goal that you have with that sweepstakes. And then we have the next step, which is going to be to actually promote the sweepstakes. And there's a few ways in which you can do that. If this is the first sweepstakes that you're going to make, I suggest that you test different types of posts to promote that giveaway. So experiment with video, with images, with lives, webinars, whatever it is that you think works for your audience, and see what resonates with your audience better, see what they respond to, and make sure you create more of that moving forward. Promote your sweepstakes on a regular basis. This is also a good tip to have when it comes to social media. You want to remind your audience that you have this thing, that it's open for them to register in case they haven't, just in case, they see your post whenever they have something to do and don't have the chance to join then and there. So make sure you post about it regularly during the campaign. And then also make sure that you engage with your followers. Make sure that the people who are commenting, who are interacting with your content, get replies and see that you are encouraging further interaction. Once the sweepstakes ends, that's when we go into the third step here, and that is to announce the winners, offer the prize, update your audience by letting them know, hey, you know what, this contest has ended. This person or these people have won the giveaway, and they already received their prize, or will contact them to get the prize and thank you all for joining and things like that. And then the third step is probably the most important step in this, and that is to follow up on your new audience. You're gonna notice that you're gonna have a lot more followers after a giveaway, after a contest. So make sure you give them a reason to stay, and you can do that by using one or more of the steps that I have here. So sharing user-generated content. If your audience needed to share content with you during the sweepstakes, you can use that content now to showcase it to everyone else. You can reintroduce yourself if you have a lot more people than you used to, so that they know who you are, what you're doing, things like that. You can interact with your followers by making sure you reply to their DMs, you reply to their comments, things like that. Even just a simple story with a Q&A box on Instagram works. You want to share valuable content and be consistent in the way that you share content to make sure that they understand that they're going to get consistent value by sticking around with you as a brand. And you can also host a virtual event or do something more to kind of get familiar with the new audience and have them get familiar with you. So I'm going to pass the mic over to Sven. And Sven, do you want to share your screen with this, or do you want me to sweep through the slides?
I wasn't prepared to share my screen, so
okay, I can
do that for me.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you, Anca. Okay, so one of the things when we do webinars like this and talk about it, people really want to know what happened. Show me a real life example, and so we've put together a handful of examples here, and we're going to, go through and give you real case studies with some real data against them and what the outcomes were. So let's get started. So we're just going to start with the basics and just reiterate what a partner is. And really, when we're talking about a brand partnership, it's simply two or more brands working together for mutual benefit, to help each other grow each other's businesses. To choosing a partner, when it comes down to it, and I will give later on in a later slide, I will actually bring up an exception because sometimes it's actually great to partner with a brand that's different, but they have to be very different. We'll talk about that in more detail. But to start off with, find a brand that is targeting the same or similar audience. Anca talked about the goals. If your goal is to grow Instagram, or your partner's goal is to grow Instagram, it's important to really discuss that up front and come to an agreement. And, you don't usually need contracts for these sorts of things between partners, but, having bullet points or having it written down in email will, save some pain later on. And then I often talk about partnerships a little bit like marriage. And just like, most people don't get married the first time they date somebody, the same thing with brand partnerships. It's often better to start small, test the waters, learn how you work together, and then, build on that over time. And that's exactly the same thing that Intribe and SocialBee have done. Right at the beginning, I think the first thing we did was some backlink exchanges from each other's blog posts. Very, very simple, but what we could see, or what I could see as a potential long-term partner of SocialBee, is how engaged they were, how quickly they moved. When SocialBee said they would add a link, they straight away came up and said, we're thinking about linking from these 3 blog posts. We think they're relevant. What do you think? And I was like, wow, that's great. Let's do that. And I think within 24 hours, they were up and I had the links. And so when you start small like that, you can already see how a brand engages, and generally how they start is often how they'll continue. Okay. Yeah,
I agree with that.
So on to the next slide, please. Okay, so case study number 1. So this is something that I was involved with. I was working at a company called Opkicks at the time. I was primarily running global sales. Opkicks was a a very new camera company, tiny camera company, kind of like a GoPro, but much smaller, more socially desirable, higher design standards. But it was a $199 product, and we were still new. We were trying to grow, and we often talk about brand partnerships and pairs. It's SocialBee and intribe. But what you can do once you've got some experience with some sweepstakes, once you've got a little bit of a network of like-minded partners, you can actually build a family of partnerships. And what we did here for World Photography Day is that we partnered with 9 other companies. So there were 10 brands involved in all. Obviously, there's Sony there. That was, the big dog of the brands that were involved, but also Moment and Drobo and Lume Cube and a number of the other brands, also very well-known brands. So we got together, and so if we have a look at these 5 goals of partnerships and sweepstakes, what did we achieve? Did we achieve our reach? Well, we achieved our reach massively. By having all of these brands there, and everybody was cross-promoting it. I think Instagram was the primary source, but there were Facebook posts, there were tweets that went out. There was a lot of video footage as we were gearing up for it. Sony and one of the other brands actually brought in some of their influencers. So it wasn't just the brands themselves promoting it, it was their full extended reach. So, some of them, I think we had another 30 or 40 influencers outside of the individual brands promoting this. So, that was great, massively increased our reach. Did it increase our credibility? Absolutely, because now people were looking at the OpKicks brand in the same way that they were looking at the Sony brand. So, from a marketing perspective, we talk about basking in somebody else's brand halo. And that's very much what this did for OpKicks. We were the least known brand on all the material, but these brands that we were associated with, really lifted us up and showed us as a quality product. Shared resources, I think we've already touched on that. Different brands, some did a number of things for the Instagram, some did it for the Twitter, all the work was divvied up across the brands. Probably the very biggest 1 or 2 brands did the least. And that's one of the ways, and I'll talk about this a little bit later as well, finding balance between a brand. And so one of the ways when you are working with a really large brand that you can find balance is actually to do more of the work, or, for every time they post or tweet, you can tweet 5 times as an example. So we were certainly sharing resources. Increased engagement, absolutely. When you go from, if we would have given away one of our devices for $199 US, that gets, some people would get excited by it. But now if you're talking about $3,000 worth of product, there's a lot more excitement. And so with that definitely came increased engagement. It was actually a really active period. All of our socials grew, all of our web traffic across the board grew. The final item there, the new audiences, did we find new audiences? 100%. A lot of these brands, again, were established. Some of the brands were very heavy photography, photographic enthusiast brands, where OpKicks was a semi-action sport, social media kind of camera. But overall, again, new audiences and people that are still interested in photography. So, the outcome for OpKicks was that almost overnight, within the space of, I think, 3 weeks, our Instagram following grew by 18%. And we added 5,000 emails to the list, which again, I think at the time our email list was maybe only about 40,000. So adding 5,000 in the space of a couple of weeks compared to, building 40,000 over 2.5 years, was a huge lift for us. Okay, so on to the next case study number 2. So just to go from something that's really large, where Opkix was the minority player, to something that was much, much simpler. And, we were the more established brand with this one. And we partnered with Hetchy. And, one of the things with both what happened with the bigger Sweepstakes and this Hetchy situation was that all of that was pulled together by human beings with personal relationships. And when I talk about the reason for intribe and the reason for being for intribe, is that a lot of smaller brands and a lot of startups don't have those networks from day one. And Hetchy was one of those. It was a small company made by outdoor enthusiasts, mountaineers and hikers. And they didn't have a lot of connections, but they had one connection, which was, with one of the Opkix team members. And, we really loved their product. And we wanted to work with them. And again, they found a way of balancing it. Our social media following was a lot bigger. A lot of our marketing materials were a lot more sophisticated. But what Hetchy brought to the table was these guys were out in the mountains, really getting away from humanity, sometimes would lose contact for days or even weeks on end. I think they actually shut down the company for 3 weeks a year so that the founders could go off into the mountains and disappear. That was actually really a part of their brand. But because of that, they brought back this amazing photography. And so you can see the little Opkix camera there, that little white egg with, it's actually got 2 little cameras in it. We had images of that next to campfires and mountain sunsets and, being worn rock climbing and all this footage that we would not have normally got. So, again, it was simple to set up because there were only 2 brands and it was very simple to draw up an agreement, but there was actually ongoing. It actually was the beginning of an ongoing relationship. We enjoyed working with these people so much. They were fun to work with. They were easy to work with. They really delivered on the photography. We had photography that we used in campaigns, I think, from that first one for another year afterwards. But we both increased our reach. So we got, the traditional Opkix audience was surfers and skateboarders, and then you're on the other end of a scale, you're sort of socialites and cocktail bars and social media, modern social media functionality. And with Hetchy, we got exposed to really sort of a more raw, authentic mountaineering type community. So for both brands, it increased our reach. Again, it increased our credibility. So Opkix's reason for being was to be super versatile. We were rugged and versatile and really tiny. And so, being with this authentic outdoors brand, again, sort of helped establish that credibility and versatility. And on Hetchy's behalf, because we were a bigger brand, that also increased their credibility as well. We definitely shared resources. Again, we wouldn't have gotten those photos without them. We got increased engagement for both brands and new audiences. And so, that was, really, really for me, a really classic way for a brand to start. So if you're thinking about getting started and, you can find either on intribe or through your own networks, a brand that's a little bit larger, that's prepared to help, think about what you can bring to the partnership that is a little bit unique and may add value to the other brand. Okay. So those were both older examples. I actually went out looking at some of the brands that are on the intribe mailing list and found one that's doing a giveaway right now. And they're actually doing 2 giveaways at exactly the same time. 2 sweepstakes are running right now. And this is the beauty of sweepstakes. There's a number of things with the sweepstakes. One, they're fun to do because people genuinely, if they're following you already or they're engaging with your social media, they already like something about what's going on, and then getting free product does excite a lot of people. But once you have the process down, you set up, you get to an agreement, you build your collateral, and then you promote it, and you agree on the promotion, and then you finish up, you award the prize. Once you've done that 2 or 3 times, it's basically the same thing you do over and over again. It's just part of a growth wheel. And so, actually running a couple at the same time, might sound a little scary, but it actually, once you've done a lot of them, it gets really easy. And, what they've done is they're 2 different sized competitions. So here are 2 different sized sweepstakes. One has, multiple brands involved. And obviously here they've got Lululemon there, so a big brand. I'm not sure if the Amazon card is just something that they've paid for, or if Amazon is actually involved with it. That wasn't clear to me. But overall, obviously, that one's got a ton of engagement and a lot of comments there. And then you've got a smaller one just with a drink brand. And again, it's actually a fairly low cost prize, particularly for the manufacturers, because it's like 4 packs of the chips and then a case of the drinks, and away you go. And they could probably run that every week on a consistent basis if they wanted to. So what's happening here again, for the brands involved, they're increasing their reach. For a new wellness brand being associated with Lululemon, increased credibility, of course, shared resources, no doubt, increased engagement. There's some great Instagram engagement there, and hopefully they got some new audiences. So again, this is just something, what I think about sweepstakes as a way to start with partnerships, is that you can start small, you can get good at it, and then if we have a look at the next slide, you can really take partnerships to a very different place. On the left, I've got the Hetchy example as a very small. It was primarily Instagram focused, and just 2 brands. Then you can take that and you can maybe do a webinar or an in-person event. So just like this SocialBee intribe event partnership, and SocialBee does these all the time. They're actually a really wonderful brand to partner with. So, what I was talking about with the sweepstakes, where they have processes in place and people get good at things, engaging with SocialBee on putting together this webinar was very clear that they've done it before. They're following a very professional process. And so, that could be the next step. Then you can get a little crazy. And this is what I was talking about with brands that maybe don't have the same audience. And you have there, that is a picture from Shake Shack and Allbirds. So at the time, Allbirds branding has changed a little bit as they've become a $1 billion entity. But for a lot of Allbirds' lifetime, they were the first eco sneaker, or the first big eco sneaker brand, and they were a little bit edgy. And Shake Shack, yeah, it's a cooler burger chain, but it's still kind of the epitome of American consumerism. And they put together this in-person event. It was one Shake Shack store. Allbirds made 50 pairs of sneakers with the Shake Shack logo on it. And then people needed to go in the store and buy a particular meal, and then it's a little bit like a sweepstakes, because they got a raffle ticket and they could win a pair of these shoes. And a lot of people were confused with why they did it until the day of, when it shut down multiple, and I can't remember if it was Boston or New York, but it shut down multiple city blocks. There were the queue stretched, for I think more than a mile long. They had to close the roads. There were news crews everywhere, and so they got exactly what they wanted. They got the media coverage that you couldn't afford to pay for, and this works when the brands clash. So 99% of the time, particularly when you're starting out, you want to be a little risk averse, date a little, start off simply, find brands that are complementary with your own brand. But as you get better at these things, you can then, really play around and get creative. And if you take a risk, you can have big payoffs. And then on the right, I think I have what is pretty much the ultimate marketing partnership that I've ever seen. GoPro and Red Bull. It's one that pains me deeply, because when I was working with Red Bull, it was actually for a GoPro competitor. and we were neck and neck with GoPro until we weren't, and then GoPro raised more money than we did and basically bought the relationship. But what that has turned into, from a few mountain biking events and a few basic partnership activities, has been this really long-term partnership. A little bit like Product Red and Apple with the iPhone. This has turned into more than a decade partnership to now where they're base jumping from outer space. And I think as a single marketing event, that one event got more eyeballs than any other marketing event or launch event ever in history. And so, could Red Bull have done it on their own? Maybe they're big enough to do that, but certainly between them, they definitely shared the promotion of it, shared the resources. All the same things apply. It's just that it was, much, much bigger. So, this is kind of the partnership examples and the sweepstakes examples that I wanted to run through. The reason, again, just to reiterate, the reason that I love sweepstakes so much is that they let you start off small and really test the waters and build a relationship, and they're fun. They're fairly easy to do. Okay, next slide, please.
Sure.
So, just a quick shout out for Intribe. Really, the whole idea is that other brands out there have the audience that you want. And for you to build that audience yourself, even if you've already got an audience, but for you to double your own audience or to extend it using all of the other normal tools out there is a lot of work. But when you can borrow the audience from another brand, that is actually a really quick way to grow. It's one of the fastest growth accelerators there are. So Intribe is there to really make those connections happen and to be the network to the small to medium businesses and the startups that don't have those existing networks in place. Next slide, please. So our value prop, higher ROI marketing, up to 25 times more than paid ads, lowering your customer acquisition costs, increasing your reach, saving time. Finding partners manually is a lot of cold outreach and a lot of work. And, the whole mission, the basic mission for Intribe is to make that a lot faster, and the goal being to grow faster. Okay.
That's it. So we're ready to go into the Q&A section. While we do that, let me just also share our little surprise here. On Intribe's side, if you go to the link that you currently see on the screen and that Andrea will also pop in the chat for us, you'll get 70% discount for life on any Intribe plan. And after that presentation, I'm sure you want to do so if you haven't already. And then on SocialBee's end, you can get 50% discount on 3 months on any plan when you introduce the code INTRIBE50×3, or by just going into the link that you'll see here on the screen or in the chat with Andrea. Okay, so thanks all for joining. We're jumping into the Q&A, and while we do that, we'll also send our details here on the screen so that if you are watching this on a recording after the Q&A, you can always reach out to us and ask the questions that you want to ask. So let me go back here and check the questions that we have. We have a couple of questions here. So let's see the first one. My biggest concern with sweepstakes is or has been understanding and following the legal requirements. The industry I work with is a cruise travel, and I believe there are some higher bars of entry than some other industries. The other piece in my particular sweepstake puzzle would be my partners. It could be a cruise line or it could be a charity. My sales angle is based around 5 to 20% share of commission going into the traveler's favorite charity. The traveler gets to choose the sale date and they get to choose the charity. Sven, do you have any advice for this?
I do have some advice. So first thing I need to say is I'm not a lawyer and I don't play one on the internet. But there are a couple of clear things that I can say, and specifically, I don't actually know much about the cruise industry, so I need to be careful. The first thing is that sweepstakes legislation in most countries, and it does vary whether you're in the US or the UK, Australia, or elsewhere, but in most countries is a lot simpler than I ever imagined when I started doing this. And the reason for that is there's a few things that change it from sweepstakes law to lottery law. And if you're going into the lottery law area, into that legal area, that's where the trouble lies. And that happens if people need to buy something. So if somebody needs to pay for something to enter the competition, then there's a whole new set of laws. But if people just need to, do a few things to enter and then they win a prize and there's no money involved or no performance and judges involved, it's actually in most countries really, really simple. The other thing that I would say is the share of commission going to a charity. I don't know anything about that, but the thing that I will say, having worked with my lawyer on different types of promotions and sweepstakes law, is that, and these types of things are now actually a fairly well-worn, well-trodden path. So actually asking a lawyer, if you have a good relationship with a lawyer, they could probably pull out a boilerplate for you and actually, just from a template, do it really inexpensively. So these things that maybe 20 or 30 years ago seemed super scary, people are doing this and engaging with it because it is actually very popular and gets results. And so most lawyers should be able to help you out there.
Awesome. So as a follow-up to that, from a different user, we have this question. Is there an easy way to legally protect yourself when hosting a sweepstakes?
So the key thing is just to be clear about exactly what people need to do to enter and what people are winning. There are certain members of the community out there called prize pigs, and there's actually recently a Netflix movie of a guy. I don't know if you want a car, a plane, or a helicopter now, but there was a guy that took a huge brand to court over something. And so these things have gone wrong in the past, but the process of protecting yourself legally is really in the terms and conditions of the competition. Again, it's a fairly well-worn path, certainly worth if you're doing something that's if you're giving away a few bags of chips or a $199 camera, it's usually not a very big deal. Because where most of the legal risk is, or the legal risk that I've seen is for these prize pigs that come after a poorly laid out set of terms and conditions.
Awesome. The next question that we have here is, how far out time-wise should you plan and start your sweepstakes?
So from my perspective, that is driven by the value and complexity of the prize. So again, if you're giving away a case of drinks or a couple of cases of drinks or even just a six-pack of crisps or something that is low value, that isn't going to have people, bending over backwards to win the prize. They're just going to click a few likes and do some simple things. You wouldn't really promote that very long out. That could be one day to the next even, or 1 week to the next week. If you are giving away a car or the actual intribe launch, we have a big launch coming up in March where we're partnering with an organization called Draper Startup House that's giving away 6 months of accommodation for digital nomads around the world. There's travel insurance included, and the whole thing is adding up to about $25,000 in value. We are going to have a 2 months worth of drip teas ahead of it as it goes. There'll be slow teas at the beginning and then getting more and more information and try to build excitement and hopefully a little press coverage as we get closer to the actual competition.
Yeah, I agree. I think the more valuable the prize is, the more you should pay attention to the time frame when you're hosting the competition. It's also something that you should align with your goal. If your goal is, and typically this is done with smaller prizes, but if your goal is to surprise someone who's been a loyal follower, that's typically something that's not done with partners. But if your goal is to surprise someone who's a loyal follower, this could be very quick and super swift. On the other hand, if you want to garner a lot more followers and make sure that a lot more people learn about it, you should widen the range as well. Next question here is, what industries do SocialBee and intribe partner with? I'll let you answer this first, and then I'll talk about SocialBee.
So the low-hanging fruit for intribe is marketing technology companies. So like SocialBee, email marketing platforms, CRMs, that is all kind of falls under the umbrella. But because we are a partnership marketing platform, and I'm really trying to get creative with our marketing, that we're doing all sorts of things. So one of the banes of my existence for anybody that's going to go and log on to intribe, it's very visual. We have a lot of beautiful brands there with great logos and great brand videos and things like that. And then we get it, and when the page is full, the search results are full of completed profiles, it's quite visually appealing. And then I still get the people that are too busy or only half interested, and so I get these half-done brand profiles, and they drive me crazy because I can see people logging onto the platform, and if I'm unlucky and the first thing they see is 8 incomplete profiles, I can see, when I'm watching session replays, they lose interest. So one of the things that I'm trying to do is create excitement about lots of little partnership campaigns. And now we're creating things to reward like the best profile and things like that. And so, one of the first prizes is actually going to be a set of headphones, not Bose, unfortunately, because they're not on the platform, but one of the brands that are on the platform will be giving away some headphones. So we're going to have these regular competitions to drive engagement and create excitement. And so from that perspective, we're really partnering broad. It may be health bars and there's a non-alcoholic beverage drink company that's coming on board soon, and we're going to do a campaign as they come on board. So yeah, so for intribe, the obvious it would be MarTech companies, but we're looking to get creative just because of what we are.
And that makes sense. For SocialBee, on the other hand, we cater to anyone who needs a social media presence. So we've been known to partner with SaaS companies. We've been known to partner with coaches who need to get a message to a broader audience. We've been known to partner with real estate. So really any industry where you need to be present on social media, which in today's day and age, if you are not on social media, you don't really exist. So I think that answers most of the question here. The next question here, and I'd only have a couple more questions. So if you have any questions that haven't been popped into the chat yet, this is the final call for the questions. So I have a question here asking about the links to the offers. The links to both offers have been added into the chat. In case you haven't seen them yet, this is SocialBee's and this is intribe's offer. You'll be able to find them in the chat over here on Zoom. And then the next question that I have here is, does the program, I'm assuming that's about intribe, help you choose the winner?
I would have thought that was to SocialBee.
Well, SocialBee does not help you with choosing the winner, but does intribe?
No, we don't have anything like that either. Although we are adding user requested features as our main software development cycle right now. But generally what people do is pull things out of a hat. Again, it can be part of your user generated content. You can stream it live if you like, and actually make an event of choosing the winner. But as long as it's done randomly, it's okay. There is actually a lot of software that does it too.
Yeah, I was going to say there's definitely software that can help you randomly pick from an array of comments under a post or people who have joined in a specific way. So there's surely a lot of options for you to pick a winner randomly there. Next question, and I'm seeing a couple more jumping in, so that's always fun. So next question is, how long is the SocialBee offer available? Can I complete my free trial first? And yes, you can definitely do that. You can open up a trial account, and that's typically 2 weeks, 14 days of a free trial. And after that, you can take advantage of the offer without any issue. So go ahead and open up a trial account if you haven't done that already. The next question is for you, Sven, and that's, can you manage more than one company profile on intribe? I run more than one business.
So not yet is the answer. We hope to be there in Q3 of this year in the third quarter. So we've just released teams, so you can have a team on intribe and you can run multiple campaigns. And as of next week, you can actually assign different team members to different campaigns. So we have one brand on there, a PR company at the moment that asked the same question. And what they've done is their main brand profile is the PR company, but they run a lot of mountain bike racing events. They're a PR company to the mountain bike industry. And they've basically created a separate campaign for every one of their different races or brands. And that seems to be working for them well. There is another company that idea didn't work for, and I've just cut them a deal. Hey, we're a startup, we're giving 75% off for life for a reason, and that is, we're young, we want to bring a lot of brands on as quickly as possible. So Tila, if you want to reach out to me, and somebody was asking for email addresses, I'm happy to give mine, which is just SVEN at intribe.co. And so, oh yeah, there it is.
Yes.
And so just drop me an email, and if you've got multiple brands or multiple businesses you'd like to put on there, I'd be happy to work something out with you.
Awesome. On the other hand, as a follow-up to the previous question, James answered on the chat that you can also feed the participants into OpenAI and ask it for it to randomly pick. That's something that's
That's the winner for the night. It's a great idea.
Yes. Speaking of AI, we also have a webinar coming up tomorrow on that topic. So if you're interested, check our social media to see where you can join for that as well. Okay, thank you, Tila, for that question. We have 2 more questions here and a couple of minutes left. So do you have any examples or case studies for nonprofit organization?
Is this, so to Elaine, is this specifically related to sweepstakes or to partnerships more generally?
Okay, while Elaine answers that hopefully in the chat, I'll move on to the other question, which is super quick and easy. Can we both contact you via email if we are interested in partnering with either or both of you? I would say on SocialBee's and definitely email us and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, and from intribe's end as well. I mean, this is what we do. We love it. So yes, please.
Yes.
And I can see Elaine came back and his answer was both.
Yeah.
So I don't know sweepstakes with nonprofits. I'm happy to, if you want to drop me an email. Okay, somebody's typing already. I'm happy to reach out to some of my cause connections, my nonprofit connections, and see if I can dig up that information for you in the relation to sweepstakes specifically. But in relation to cause marketing campaigns, there are a lot of examples. Some of them are probably so big and in your face that you don't recognize them for what they are. You know, it's like people don't realize that airline loyalty programs are really massive partnership programs between the hotels and the rental cars and certain causes. So when you are offsetting your flight miles, the carbon offsets, you know, that's an example of a big, huge partnership program partnering with a cause or a nonprofit. Product Red from you know, that U2, the band U2 backed a lot, and that partnered. You know, I think the most famous partnership is with Apple. You can buy Apple iPhones, or it was already back in the days of the iPod. That was a very famous partnership. But for smaller partnerships, if you and this is what Intribe is really about, because these big brands have so many people involved that they do these, you know, crazy things. But here in Singapore, where I live, there is a nonprofit that they're called 7 Clean Seas, and they take ocean plastic, they recover ocean plastic or plastic from the ocean. And, you know, obviously they've got a couple of corporate sponsorships that basically help fund them, but they actually also partner with the local dragon boat community. So you have these two nonprofits. You have nonprofit sporting teams, and they actually go out and help clean up these islands. You know, while they're on their dragon boat, they have these huge weekends where they're working with this nonprofit. So there's lots of examples out there. I'm not so sure about the sweepstakes, but again, if you want to email me, I can. I've got tons on my database, or even in our blogs.
Awesome, and that Elaine says thanks. So that concludes our webinar today. Thank you so much for joining, Sven. Thank you all for being here live with us, or for watching the replay if that's what you're doing. In case you have any questions for both myself or Sven, you can always email us at hello@socialbee.io or sven@intribe.co. And don't forget to take advantage of the offers. 50% off for 3 months on any SocialBee plan with the code INTRIBE50 × 3, and 70% discount for life on any Intribe plan when you're going for the link that you see here. Thank you all for joining, and I'll see you guys next time with more exciting SocialBee webinars.
Thanks, Anca. Thanks, everyone. Really enjoyed it.
Me too. Have a nice evening.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. And thank you, Andrea, for helping out with the chat.